Brought to you by Telehelping, a virtual assistant staffing company for professionals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Hall. I am the host of The Faces, Entrepreneurs Are People Too, and the founding CEO of Telehelping, a virtual staffing organization, and thankfully the hero and sponsor of this here podcast. So I appreciate you, Telehelping, for affording me the ability to talk to wonderful people like Eric. Eric, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I cannot complain. Just getting the day started. Good meeting so far. Knock on wood. Great day.
There we go.
Well, Eric, I like to generally kick this off, and I avoid wanting to talk about all the things I want to chat with you about. But by kicking it off with, who is Eric? I want to know, and the audience definitely needs a preference of who's this guy we're chatting with here today. So please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Sure. So Eric Flynn, I'm the head of wealth here at Compound Planning. Born and raised out here in Montana, so fifth generation Montana ranch kid. Grew up in a big family ranch. So yeah, grew up chasing cows and cutting hay, all the things. So yeah, good work ethic, but knew early on that wasn't going to be my path in life. Ended up getting a master's of accounting here at Montana State in Bozeman, and went to work for Arthur Andersen right after that. Thought I'd made it, but didn't realize I got on the Arthur Andersen Titanic after it hit the iceberg. So went down with the ship at Arthur Andersen and got away from the CPA world and moved over to wealth management and really haven't looked back since. So yeah, had about 23 years in wealth management after that.
No, nice. One of the big things that I love about folks who've been so many generations in one particular place like Montana is it's very similar to my buddy who lives in Texas. He always says that he's sixth generation Texas. If he were any more Texan, he'd be Mexican. And so my question is for you is what is that compared to folks from Montana? Like what was before, Montana? I know that it was, all I know about the greater Northwest is what I learned on Yellowstone, for being honest.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's one of the first questions I get is, do you watch the show? And I was like, no, I don't watch the show. Yeah, I live the show, but exactly. But before, when my family got here, it was a original land grant settlement. So there really wasn't anything here. It was kind of just the Wild West, territory at that point. So we came out the late 1800s, and my brother still lives on our original land grant settlement. So we've been here a long time.
Wow. That's incredible. That exists much across Mexico. I'm in Mexico right now, and there are original land grants back to the indigenous that Mexico at large has afforded folks who were, pre-Hispanic. How nice of them, right? And so folks that I've met going around the different lakes and the beaches here, folks who live on the original land since, well into the 1700s. One gentleman I was talking to, he's like, my family's always lived here. He's like, and I'm sure before we started counting, they always lived here as well.
Exactly. Yeah. My kids are sixth generation, so yeah, it's it runs in our blood to be Montanans out here.
That's incredible, and I always, I'm just trying to start, what I would say traditions with my family as well. My family at large, all the men in my family, we so honorably claim the fact that Halls and or relatives of Halls have fought in every conflict since the beginning of the United States. And so we're just a military family. So
there you go.
We're a multi-generation. You can track back our involvement, to the time the boats were crossing. But I'd like to start something different, right? Great, right? And I love the idea that, you have that sixth generation thing. It's going to continue, hopefully moving on and to be Montanians.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, similar to the show, but yeah, again, don't watch it, don't like it.
That's completely fine. Well, let's talk about, the accounting space. I studied accounting myself. It was not by choice. It was by necessity. So is numbers your hobby? Right? Is it something that you enjoy on and off the playing field? Or is it just something that, I'm good at this and I'll do it?
Always good at numbers. Math was always something that just resonated well for me. And as I knew I wasn't going to be into the ranching space, I originally started in engineering. So I wanted to go be a computer scientist, but spent a couple of years doing that and then realized that I was sitting in a dark room writing code. I was kind of looking around at everybody else and I was like, man, which one of these doesn't belong? It's like this guy. Like, okay, I actually enjoyed Yeah, I enjoy talking to people. This doesn't feel like the right thing for me. So kind of looked at other options. I was like, okay, business seems like the one, and the one with the most math is finance or accounting. And had a couple of buddies that were accountants, so I said, I'm gonna roll with accounting and see what happens here. And yeah, was a good choice. Opened a lot of doors for me. Yeah, the accounting background was something that actually is the foundation of everything that you do in finance. So I think it was the right choice for me, and opened all the doors to get me my CPA license, and then the foundation for the CFA after that.
No, very well. And we're lucky to at telehelping, and I'm lucky to interact with a lot of different CFAs, CFPs, wealth managers, wealth advisors. All the names, right?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
always just do
All the
forward slash
letters.
forward slash forward slash forward
Yep.
slash. And so, I do find a particular level of expertise and awareness that is those who are CPAs who are wealth advisors. Would you say that my perception of that is accurate?
Yeah, 100%. A lot of wealth management is planning, and a big part of that is taxes. So, having that tax foundation, I think, is big, as well as just tracking down and like almost the forensic accounting of kind of figuring out where everybody's assets are, and where they have things scattered between points A and B, and a lot of that's kind of auditing or forensic accounting. So, yeah, I think the accounting foundation is a very good transition over to wealth management in the financial planning space.
That's great. And I am lucky to know a lot of wealth managers as clients. I like being the guy who always refers people. I love referring people, right?
Yep.
And so I happen to do that a lot with my friends because I have a slew of different friends. And then I happen to be engaged with a lot of wealth managers, right? And I recently even referred someone that I had on the podcast that worked specifically with contractor space, blue collar based trade labor,
Yep.
and I was able to refer them to my little brother, who is a tradesman, owns his own plumbing company, right? And so I love those opportunities because there are so many different types of specialties. You yourself, do you have a particular focus or niche that you dial in on?
Not particularly for me personally, but I'd say Compound as a whole, we really focus kind of on the tech founder space is kind of how the company was really started and where our original niche came from. So we work with a lot of founders that are just kind of getting their feet off the ground. They're really trying to figure out, what their liquidity events look like. What is that? Yeah, how can I maximize my wealth as you go forward? Some of that's tax planning, some of that's wealth planning, kind of parts in between, estate planning, all the different pieces. So I'd say that's where Compound as a whole has really focused. So that's from the business perspective, and for me, I obviously resonate well with ranchers and farmers and those types of folks because that's my background. So I've done well with that crowd kind of historically because it's good to be able to sit down and talk about cows and
Yeah.
farming and everything else and know that I understand where they're coming from.
One of our clients, so I did a teacher stint. I would never refer to myself as a professor in any legitimate terms. However, I have referred to myself as a professor off the record. But I did a period of time with
Yep.
Purdue, and that connected us with an organization that does accounting. It's a QuickBooks for farmers, right? It's very
Yep.
specific farmer based. Their physical calendar is a lot different than the average. I close my books every end of the year, right? They're more on a crop cycle, right? And so they're one of our clients at telehelping. Very all agriculture based business is a passion project for me because the people resonate with me, and I think that's one of the best things about what I get to do is, and I one of the reasons this podcast exists is so that my staff who works for my company can understand who our clients are, and so they watch one podcast per week because it's important for me to understand that we're not just like we just don't staff people with virtual assistants. Like we help people who maybe it's an investment for them every month. And so I see that farmers like that when we're helping farmers, like, we're doing something of value to the
Yep.
world. We're doing something. We're not maybe the boots on the ground per se at telehelping, but we're definitely coordinating the logistics and we're supporting dreams, as I call it. Like we're supporting dreams and ambitions of others. And that's why I love the farm and the agriculture space so much. Just really good people.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
No, I love that. Well, I'm an accountant by education, right? Did my MAC. However, I was the only one who did not pursue the CPA license because if I'm being fully transparent, Eric, I only paid attention enough during that portion to pass. And I tell people all the time when they ask me for advice, I shy away from giving my opinion whenever I can. about anything finance. I was like, I can refer you to a guy or two or a
Yep.
gal. Like, you tell me what you want to achieve, but I'm not. I day trade. I don't give financial advice. Like, I studied accounting. I am not an accountant, right? so, so
Yep.
how do you who are those things, how do you navigate that, right? All your friends who maybe aren't your clients or family are like, hey Eric, hey, quick question, bud, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about this process. How do you navigate that?
I tell people, if I'm giving you free advice, you're going to get what you pay for. So you got to be careful. But I always refer to myself as a recovering CPA. Yeah, because I haven't done that kind of work in a very long time. So I could poke fun of of my CPA friends. But no, it's always just navigating. Where's the value that I can provide? I haven't done CPA work in a very long time. I'm not a CPA. I'm not going to give tax advice. That's very specific because we have folks that do that. Yeah, I don't want to be keeping up on tax code every year. That's just not where my value is for sure. It's more on the investment side, on the financial planning side, and on just kind of building the firm. That's where I enjoy spending my time these days.
I love it. I love it. I think that you have to do what you do well, right? And that's one thing that I've tried to implement into my business. I try not to do relationships in business that I myself don't think is positive for me. Like, there's doing and then there's doing well. If I can't do it well, I shy away from it, right? Just because
Yep.
I maybe have the expertise. Like, there's once upon a time where someone would have called me like a special operations guy. All right, he only exists in memory. All right, that guy doesn't exist. I like warm coffee, soft beds. Like, I
Yep.
don't like cold nights and long evenings. No, the guy
Yep.
is so far away. He's a distant memory. Seems like a dream, right?
Yep.
Same thing with the CPA thing. So I'm like, yeah, I did it. You're right. I
Yep. I
have the
checked the box.
value of it, right?
Yep. Check the
Uh,
box. Yep. Done.
that's wonderful. I just yesterday someone who came by my house here, and I'm trying to get things all set up so my family can relocate back to Mexico. But and he's like, what do you do for work? And I was like, well, what do I do for work? That's a complicated question, right? And when you do
Yep.
so much, like, what do you do, right? I always default to telehelping. I'm like, but I really love trading, right? And I think day trading is a dirty word, right? Option
Yeah.
brokering is kind of something I would lean towards, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but when I said that, he's like, "Oh, let me get your what do you think about, like, Bitcoin and all this?" Like, wouldn't know, not the guy.
Yeah. Not that person. Yeah. Yeah.
I was
I know
like,
somebody that you could talk to, but that's not me.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can refer you to someone. When you want some financial advice, I will be your buddy, right?
Yep.
I
100%.
I think I love folks who know their competency, right? And so, with that being said, how do you, as a financial planner, right, when you're drawing this path towards wealth advice, managing assets and everything, does financial planners have a pocketbook, a wallet? I refer to it as a tool belt of, like, referral sources and or relationships. Like, definitely great question. I have a CPA, probably not going to give you in-depth tax advice, because for anyone listening, like, just because you're a CPA or a tax lawyer, there are so many lines of tax law. Like, the amount of research just to understand, there are specific expertise out there for every little piece of it.
Yep.
Like, do you have like a developed tool belt for that?
Yeah, yeah, we definitely do. So I mean, we do some of the things in house. So I mean, obviously we're a tech enabled RAA. So I mean, the core wealth management, wealth planning, that's our expertise. We have in house tax, we have in house estate, but yeah,
Love it.
again, there's so many different specialties within each of those things. As soon as it falls out of kind of the normal scope of something that requires an expert, yeah, we've got a laundry list of COIs that we
That's
refer
great.
people to across the country because you can't be an expert in everything, as you said. So you have to have those partnerships, and there's so many different niche things that people going to run into. It's like, okay, I know a little bit, I know enough to be dangerous, but you need really specific advice on that one thing. We know somebody that can help you with that one thing, whereas we're kind of looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah. No, I love that. We have a laundry list of expertise, advice givers, competency holders that we have for our clients, because oftentimes I learned very early on, like for you, right? You get like, I'm going to get in and I'm going to manage people's wealth, right? That's what I'm going to do. Like, I got it. I dialed in. It's going to be great. And you get in there and it's not that clear cut. It's
Clear as
not
mud.
like,
Yep.
give me money, I'll make decisions, and then we'll go. That's what it felt like virtual staffing, right? For entrepreneurs, for smaller businesses. I was like, great, we're just going to We're just going to connect talent with need, and we're going to just like, great, you guys do your
Easy.
thing,
Yep.
right? And we realized early on that was not a winning strategy, just because I realized there was a disconnect at some point. Like, okay, I need tax advice, right? And then you're like, great, about what? And then they're like, taxes. And they're like, yeah, but about what?
Yep.
Right. And it
Which
was the
part?
same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, the same thing for us. Like, I need this job to be done. Right. And it was, we do backwards job to be done. That's how we build descriptions. Because everyone's like, I need a marketer. Right. Our example, like that would be our taxes. I want to do marketing. Great. What type of marketing? Marketing. I'm like, great. Well, you tell me what you want to have done, and then we'll backtrack as to really what we're talking about here. And then we realize that along that way is we have to really provide support elements everywhere to really get them to the realization of what they're trying to accomplish, right? And I imagine you fall into that all the time. It's like we're trying to build wealth. Great. What is wealth, and what is that? What is that connection?
Exactly.
And so your organization, how large are you guys? You seem well established.
Yeah. So we're currently around 50 advisors plus or minus, and about 3.5 billion under management. So we've grown and scaled rapidly over the last, I call it 18 months or so. So we've grown from kind of a smaller shop as we've kind of grown and scaled and leveraged our technology to grow and recruit advisors and teams across the country.
Wow, that's interesting. And I'm drawing some correlations here. So one thing we do is we have several relationships with back offices it says you stop recording. He disappeared. He's gone. Flynn. Let's definitely cut this.
Not sure
Eric,
what
are you
happened there,
back?
but we're back.
I was like, man, was it something I said, Eric? No, just joking.
I don't
We're
know.
still recording.
It just
It's
froze and then
fine.
it was gone, and now we're back. Yeah.
They're going to cut this anyways. Like what would I be if I didn't have someone edit this for us, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, it just froze. So here we are. Yeah.
No, it's like Eric left. I was like, where'd you go?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, done. I was saying, so we work with several back offices as like a preferred virtual staffer. Like if their people are going to use virtual assistants, so like, hey, we have a relationship with these people.
Yep.
Are you considered a back office?
We do some of the back office things for our clients. I would say we're not doing like full outsourced bookkeeping or bill pay and some of that. We have some family office type clients where we are venturing into that space where we do some of that. But for most of our clients, they have a good relationship with their accountant. They have most of that already set up. A lot of our business folks obviously have most of that back office pretty well established for themselves through their business.
Wow.
But as they kind of transition from wealth, kind of business owners to wealth owners, that's one of the places where you see a lot of people kind of struggle in resetting up their infrastructure. They have this business where, everybody kind of reports to them. They have all these different, they have finance, they have accounting, they have all these things that are kind of giving them all the data they need. They go through a transition, they sell that. All of a sudden now they have assets that are different than their business. And now they're like, well, who gives me all this information? So we're kind of reset up their entire infrastructure of, okay, here's your tax person that's going to give you this advice. Here's the financial advice person that's going to give you this. And, our CIO is going to give you advice on this. And it kind of recreates kind of that infrastructure that they're used to of people reporting into them and giving them the information they need.
I see that frequently actually with our
Yep.
clients. And it's an interesting transition because, probably just this year, we probably had 3 or 4 that it's taken place where they've been acquired by a larger group and they're kind of gone from, this sole entrepreneur night of their round table, right?
Yep.
And they're like, well, I'm working with JP Morgan now.
Yep.
So, right.
Yeah, here
all
we
my
are.
money is under JP Morgan. I'm still independent in a way, right? Still very autonomous, right? However, they now have this chunk of money, right? As you said, now what do you do with that? Like now that you're the person who has the wealth that needs to be managed, like, decisions that need to be made there. And then also you're kind of you're in a pyramid now. You're in top, you're a part of a brick. You're not the tip anymore. And
Yep.
that does take some adjusting. I've been there.
Yes, it's definitely adjustment for folks where they've been basically their entire wealth was everything they had 100% of control of. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I'm investing in things that I don't have control over. It's in public markets. It's in, other private equity where I don't control the company. I don't control all the pieces. And yeah, that's a tough transition for a lot of folks to not have 100% control of everything that happens, 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's oftentimes what can be a fault of many people because they have all this control and then they get in there, it's like, where do I exist in the world?
Yep. Yeah, it's really kind of refining their place, like because that was like everything kind of revolved around their business. Everything was invested in their business. Everything was reinvested in their business. And then
Yeah.
now it's okay, now I don't have that anymore. They're looking for that next thing of where do I sink my teeth into the next thing? And many of them become serial entrepreneurs and start the next thing and take, some chips off the table to make sure they have that nest egg. But, you see a lot of them just dive right back in again and say, yeah, I'm going to start another
Yeah.
project and here we go. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen it happen with a client who was a franchisor. They sold into a larger franchise and they were there for a while. They were there for like their minimal commitment. And then they went out and they started another franchise.
Yep.
Right. And they're like, oh, this was great. We're done. I'm going to start another franchise because my non compete and everything's over. And I realized I didn't really like the way I did it the first time. Let me reinvent myself.
Yep.
And so they go at it a complete way because it's difficult sometimes to when you've already set the train in motion to change the direction of the train.
Yep.
Right. And so sometimes it is difficult to make those more nimble decisions you want to make. But when you sell and you restart, you're kind of like getting a free blank slate, except now you have capital.
Yes. Yeah. Now you have the thing you didn't have the first time you did it, where you kind of bootstrap things together just to make it work. And now you actually can think about it a little more strategically, build it the way that you want to.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Eric, I have to now jump because very frequently do I start on the business side of things, which I went right into with
Yeah.
you. Like, who's the guy who's not the wealth advisor, running the show over here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you hadn't noticed, I'm a bit of a Disney nut too. So I got my Donald Duck cup here,
Yeah,
but
I was noticing your cup,
yeah.
my plain white generic
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I didn't realize that until I picked it up. I was like, oh, well, yeah, here we go. We can talk about that. But, yeah, my wife was grew up as a Disney nut. Kind of, she grew up in the South, and family went to Disney a bunch of times. So now that's a big family tradition for us. Now we try to go about every 18 months and go visit Mickey Mouse. So that's always a fun one.
Very much. Oh, very much so. So imagine do you find your way trying to travel around the world to all the Disney locations? Have you been to Tokyo or any of the other ones?
I've been to Disney Hong Kong. Yep.
All
We
right.
were trying to go to Paris this last year, and then we couldn't quite make it work. But yeah, we are. I don't know that we're going to get to all of them, but we're definitely going to try to get to a few of them across the world.
Well, I definitely have to put a bug in your ear about the Mexico City Disney, right? It's 100% not Disney. However, Mexico's notorious for maybe some infringement,
Yep.
right? It's just taking some things and
Yep.
rebrand it. We
Borrowed.
actually have yeah, correct. We have an In and Out in Mexico. That is definitely not In and Out, but everything about it's In and Out. So in Mexico City, there is a Disneyland, right?
Yep.
That isn't Disneyland, but definitely is
But
Disneyland.
definitely
If you
looks like
ever
Disneyland. Yep. There we go.
if you ever feel adventurous, or you're like, I think we're gonna go see what this is like, you should give it a go.
Nice.
Get all your affairs in order, like life insurance and things like that. I would definitely question some of the engineering. I've been on some of the rides, right? You're wondering why there's wood blocks under truss and everything. But if you're about it, if you ever feel like you have a wild
Yep.
hair, you should go for it.
You just go. All right. Well, I'll put that one on the list. Yeah, it's going to be a little lower on the list, but it's on the list.
It's it's
Disneyland
it's like the
Paris,
books.
knockoff Disney Mexico. Yeah, I don't know. We're going to put that one down a little lower. Yeah.
It's like the books I need to read. There is a list, right? There's definitely a priority amongst them, though.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But outside of that, I mean, growing up in Montana, outdoors, anything I could do outside, that's what I enjoy to do. Grew up hunting, fishing, all that kind of thing. Now it's skiing, golf. Anytime I can get outside, hang out with the kids, that's 100%. Yeah, try to get outside.
That's wonderful. And as a dad myself, I'm young dad in the sense that my kids haven't really developed skills or sports or desires yet, not even opinions, some of them. But looking at it from that perspective, do you share some constant like favorite sports with your kids? Do they like golfing?
Yeah, I mean, they love to fish. Both my kids are pretty good at hunting, so enjoy that in the fall. But summertime, yeah, my oldest really enjoys golf, so try to get out. He can't beat me yet, but he's getting close. And then my kids are both better skiers than me, so I didn't learn. Growing up on the ranch, you never skied, and then when I met my wife, then girlfriend, she's basically, if you want to date me, you're gonna have to learn how to ski. I said, okay, I can figure that out. I'm pretty athletic. First day was
Yep.
ugly, and after that, I figured it out. But my kids grew up skiing just from little. They grew up no fear of skiing. They just ski. I grew up with learned how to ski with a fear of skiing. So that's always in the back of my head is I don't want to be broken. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, you have to balance. I mean, especially as, because I will say a lot of the viewers here identify as, mid to early 30s, early 20s, a lot of them. And so you don't understand some of you yet, but you have to protect yourself
Yes.
against stupidity. So you want to go skiing. Absolutely. However,
Yep.
do you want to be in a back brace, right? And so we
No.
need to we need to balance those out because you could fall in your 30s and that could be quite damaging to something other in your 20s would have been like, wow, walk this off. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
happen at
No,
certain points.
I don't bounce anymore. I kind of stick. So yeah, if I look down the hill and I'm like, if I miss that one corner, I'm screwed. That's not a run I'm doing anymore. Yeah, the big chutes and stuff, I'm out. Yeah, I'll do the trees. I mean, I'll ski most any double black, but it's the really steep chutes where it's like, yeah, that's questionable down there. That I'm out. I'll like you can find me après skiing at the bar. I'm good. You're like pick me up later. Yeah.
That's been my approach to snowboarding. Love it. Didn't love the pain when I was younger. I just know it's going to be far more worse now. If I'm in a position where someone's like, "Oh, let's go to ski in Switzerland," I'm like, "Or oh yeah, sure, okay, I'm going to go make it happen." Conservatively, of course, but from that perspective, I stick to what's going to tennis, right? I know my body, and even the level I play at tennis, it hurts afterwards sometimes, and so never going to. My knees have to stop working for me to pick up pickleball. I refuse
I,
to
I
play a sport where you have to basically stay in place.
Yeah, I played the first time. It's more athletic than you give it credit for. But my
Okay.
wife's a big tennis player, and we tried it when we were on vacation this winter, and I was like, okay, let's at least give it a go. And surprisingly amount of fun. It's like oversized ping pong, but I moved around a lot. I had got a pretty good sweat on. I was like, wow,
Okay.
this was way more athletic than I gave it credit for.
Well, if your wife's a tennis player, you can understand the perception that tennis people have towards pickleball.
Yes,
One
yeah,
of the pros I train with, he's like, you know, he'll talk my ear off. He's like, and I'll see him like coaching other people. He's like, this is the problem with tennis. If you don't want to move, go play pickleball. Move your feet or go play pickleball.
exactly. Yep, yep. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love it.
I have seen some people play pickleball where they're still holding a drink, and I was like, okay, that's very low level pickleball. And then the other night I was at the hotel and I flipped on ESPN and it was professional pickleball, and I was like, okay, that's a whole other level of pickleball that I will never get to. But yeah, very athletic.
Oh, it's just like the actual table tennis, like ping pong. Like, there's ping pong and then there's like Olympic, I'm 15 feet back from the
Yes,
table ping pong. And
100%.
so that is a sport.
Yep, yep. Yeah, and I just saw like Andre Agassi or somebody just switched over to play professional pickleball. So yeah, I mean it's you can be a professional tennis player, still enjoy the pickleball. So there you go.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
all for it. I'm retracting my previous puns and our jabs, right?
No, I wouldn't do that just yet.
I'll
They're still valid, but yeah.
Well, one thing, Eric, as we gear towards the end of our conversation today, we have a lot of folks who are CFPs, CFAs that listen to the podcast because they make up a majority of our clients and then a majority of our guests as well. For those who may be interested in maybe joining your team or inquiring about more information, how would they reach out to you? Is that something that you even take inquiries for? Or do you hunt people? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, would love to have those conversations. I mean, reach out to me on LinkedIn, eric.flynn at compoundplanning.com. Happy to have those conversations, talk about who we are, what we do, and how you can be part of the team. We've obviously resonated very well with kind of younger advisors, just because we are building a tech platform. So people really enjoy, kind of the improved tech and, the forward looking. We're using a lot of AI within the firm, really trying to be forward looking with how we're trying to build the platform, build the team, build the company. And I think that's resonated very well with advisors that want to join the platform. And secondarily, it's obviously resonated well with the younger clients and the G2 clients as we've built our own dashboards, our own technology on that side to aggregate, kind of see all their assets in one place, manage their whole balance sheet, make it really simple for them. So really trying to be a tech forward firm, thinking about how do we build this for the next wave of technology and AI versus just kind of looking backwards and just hoping that we can patch technology together to be an RAA. So really taking a forward look.
No, I love that. And we'll also tag all those information in regards to how to contact you into the video itself,
Perfect.
as well as the description. So if you, for some reason you didn't catch that, you don't even have to hit rewind. I'm sure there's going to be a hyperlink that'll pop up right about the time he says it.
Yep.
Likewise, I enjoy that perspective that you're pushing towards the innovative side. And even at Telehub, and I try to be as innovative as we can before we hit a diminishing return. Right.
Yep.
Now, I'm not the person who will automate things that shouldn't be automated just because automated is fun to automate. No automating to automate.
Yep. Exactly.
But we definitely try to keep it as tech forward as possible until it, at some point, where are we doing things just to do things? We also get we actually surprisingly have a lot of AI partners. I didn't realize that till one day. I'm like, they're just coming out of nowhere, and they're so different, which is really cool.
Yep.
Have different competencies. I think we're finding so many niche environments like legal, finance, that the AI is spurring up from. And so, Eric, it's been an incredible conversation. You're a pleasant guest, and I've had a fun time chatting with you on this meeting and our pre-call.
Yeah. Thanks, Cody. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's good times. Yeah, happy to continue the conversation anytime. So this has been a good time.
Of course. We'll sign off on the recording, sir. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us.
This video was brought to you by our official sponsor, Telehelping. Need support for your business? Telehelping connects you with top-tier remote staff to help you streamline operations and fuel growth. Go to telehelping.com and get started today.